My mom once told me, lower your expectation. At first, I thought, really? Isn't that like settling for less? But then I realized something very powerful. Lowering my expectation didn't mean giving up. It meant shifting my focus. Let me show you how. From 2011, I returned back for the first time, Nairobi, Kenya, from Europe, where I have been living many years, first in Denmark and then later in the UK. I asked my mom and half of my family who were still in refugee camp in the Dadaab, which is one of the largest refugee camps in Africa, to come and meet me in Nairobi, Kenya. At that time, I wanted to build a medical hospital. I finished my first year of my PhD. I had my undergrad and my first master's at the time. And I sit down with my mom, told my dreams and what I needed to do. I was hoping, since I don't have enough capital to open the hospital, I wanted to ask some of our relatives to help me out. And that is where my mom came in and then told me, you need to lower your expectation. Few weeks later, I came to Mogadishu and I was staying with my uncle and met my dad and my other half of the family. And I started actually dreaming big, planning the hospital, and asking a friend of my uncle to do the drawing and the design of the hospital. I was full on. During my stay there in Mogadishu, there was drought, famine, a lot of people were suffering. Half of Mogadishu was still under control of Al-Shabaab, so the security wasn't as great as it is now. So the only choice I had was to be brave and open the hospital, which I even don't have the time because I had to go back home in the UK. Home is UK, obviously, because that's where I live, and finish my PhD. That's where I had my life. So I had to be realistic and think a little bit ahead of my actually. Thinking clearly allowed me to be realistic. And that is where I realized not having enough money and not being able to work full-time in Somalia, it was not realistic. And my expectation, I really needed to a little bit lower it down. Not give up, but lower it down. So what I had to do is, during my stay in Mogadishu, I wanted to utilize my time wisely. So I started doing voluntary work. We had a UK registered charity called EOW Charity, which stands for EVA Organization for Women. And I wanted to help those people who were struggling. At first, we were giving money and food. And then I called our board and asked them if we could have an emergency meeting and allow me to use the rest of the money to open, small kiosk, women who were struggling in their own homes, so that they don't need to leave their children behind. And that is what I spent quite some time afterwards. There were few Somali men who came to me, asking me to be part of them and, build a university. At the time, I told them Mogadishu had a couple of universities and there was no need. So I told them to build academic progression and polytechnic academy. And after I returned back in the UK, I actually keep calling those men. I don't want to mention their names. And I started doing a research called 3E's. It stands for empowerment, education, and employment. And I used to come once a year in Mogadishu, and I realized towards the end I was a one-woman show. Those men who had that idea, building the university. They already have the university, so it is very known university now. Actually, they built two universities. They actually became two groups. So I actually had two choices: either to give up the research and what I started, the academic progression and Polytechnic Academy. We wanted to offer professional development courses and training, TVET, which stands for Technical and Vocational Education Training. I wanted also to do a little bit of STEM because I am a woman in STEM. I was so lucky enough to have full funded PhD fellowship to do my PhD, and I will talk in my upcoming episodes or contents. So I realized I needed either to abandon the dream and never look back and never come back to Somalia, or be brave and continue the work. After 3 years of doing research, I finally decided to register the academy in 2014. And it was the start of actually building over 17 companies, institutions, and charitable organizations, which I am the founder and managing today. So what have I learned during this time? It is almost 14 years ago, and I learned three things. I expected progress. I stopped becoming perfect all the time. I started celebrating small wins because they added up a big win. I also learned to focus on what I can control because other people's fund, I cannot control it. I could not actually depend on somebody else's finance to open the hospital. So what I had to do was build Hano Academy, which is Academic Progression and Polytechnic Academy, with my own fund. I actually sold my house and funded because I cannot depend on somebody else. And the expectation, I didn't want my expectation, to be tied to others, other people's behavior will lead disappointment. So although it hurt so much, like when somebody I expected their call or email never showed up, or I was expecting to get a loan and it never come through, it is disappointment. However, it didn't ruin my plans. The final thing that I have learned during this journey was gratitude. Gratitude was the key. Lowering, my expectation doesn't mean lowering my standard. It actually meant appreciating the journey, not the destination. I really enjoyed, although it was a very tough and challenging journey, because working in Somalia with zero capital, with, no donor organizations giving, any fund to do what you have in mind wasn't easy. And what I had to do, actually, not to give up my dreams, was to actually use what I had and not to expect somebody else to come and save me. So remember, lower your expectation doesn't mean settling for less or giving up your dreams. It means shifting your focus to what truly matters. Number one. Number two, appreciate the journey. And number three, celebrate the progress over perfection. Also remember, when you let go unrealistic pressure, you make space for joy, gratitude, and a more peaceful life. That is where true success begins. If this resonates with you, let us continue the conversation. Support this message, like, share, follow, and comment below. Subscribe my email list below, and also join our WhatsApp group called Hano Legacy Circle. So let us build a life where less stress means more success.